towards the area. You mean the city? It's in the city.
They never
right?
left the city.
Okay. Investigator Viverito, you previously testified that he said going to the scene, and now you're saying to this jury that he didn't say scene, he said see.
They just doing that cut. They seen as it got gas. They chill.
I understand that you want to tell everyone what's said here, but you've already given two different stories. You said scene, and then you said see.
Wait a minute. Is she getting caught up in her lies right here in front of the jury? Man.
If you're new, make sure y'all hit that notification bell, that like, share, comment, and subscribe. Grab a seat. We finna dig deep.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to the channel. Man, today, the state rested their case. Man, ask yourself this, is SB getting all the love? Or is the state actually trying to get him a conviction just because? Will Yak, is he on his way back? Or will Yak actually be another one of the defendants that the state sends back to the bag? Man, before we dig deep, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, tap that notification bell so you won't miss a drop. And definitely subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Tap that like button to help the channel continue to grow. Grab a seat, we're finna dig deep.
Yes.
Right. I think you testified that Mr. Johnson, in your opinion, he's associated with Atlanta Blood Gang.
He's documented as a member, and he's also a fixture at 12 Atlanta Daily.
Okay. So you saw this post, posted the next day, referencing the death, mocking slime and chalk. Mr. Johnson has not been charged for the murders of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
Correct.
And the reason he hasn't been charged is because posting something like this, while it is insensitive, while it may be wrong, it doesn't mean that he killed Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, does it?
Correct. There's other things we would look at, like if he was in the vicinity of the murder on camera, coupled with a post that's not great, that would be something we take into consideration, but that didn't happen.
And Investigator Viverito, I knew you were going to be dying to say that, and we are going to talk about all the surveillance videos and all of the situation involving Mr. Drinks when I get to it, okay? But I'm asking you specifically about posts. Posts that is not a confession to killing Darius Ford or Christian McMiller, is it?
Absolutely not. But as an investigator, you need to look at things as a whole to piece things together, leading you towards suspects.
Okay, and that's why you collected this?
Correct.
Okay, and this post was collected on March 11th, 2022 at 11:30 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Okay, so again, about a day after Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford were killed.
Correct.
Okay, and you testified on direct about what you thought. New op pack just came in. It's kind of like we're smoking on our ops.
Correct.
Okay. Certainly not kind, not nice, not sympathetic, and it's showing approval for what happened, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this page is another one that you didn't know the government name of the person behind it.
Correct.
Okay, and you didn't go through any investigative steps, or anyone else that you know of go through any investigative steps to determine the person behind it.
Correct.
Okay, and the reason, again, is because this post, you didn't take it as a confession. You didn't take this post as saying, I'm the person who did it.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Finally, we're going to talk about Kelvin Watts. Okay, Kelvin Watts has not been arrested for the Christian McMiller or Darius Ford murder, has he?
He has not.
Okay. And this has all happened 2 years ago at
Correct.
this point. Okay. Really 2.5 years ago, more than 2.5 years ago. Mr. Watts made several posts regarding the death of Darius Ford and Christian McMiller.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Knight, could you please publish 473 VV for me? Okay. In 473 VV, that's posted by Shellkel Nutlife, correct?
Correct.
And you know that that'd be Kelvin Watts.
Correct.
And this was posted shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford?
Correct.
Okay, and it just actually depicts Mr. Donovan Thomas.
Correct.
And underneath Mr. Thomas's left eye are 2 shells.
Correct.
Okay, and as an investigator, you're aware of like prison tattoos or eye teardrops under an eye, correct?
Yes, that's what I spoke about on direct.
Okay, right. And you took this as kind of a play on the teardrops under the eyes of 2 shells indicating 2 bodies, Darius Ford and Christian McMiller.
Correct. The first time we started seeing the 2 shells under the eye was after the death of Christian Ford and Darius McMiller, I think, in days following.
Darius Ford, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and these are, you got to look a little close, but I see the big shell off of his hair, but then there's 2 little shells under his left eye.
Correct.
Okay, and again, that's a post that you interpreted to be a reference to the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford.
Correct.
Okay. Shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
This was in the hours after they were killed, yes.
And this is on Kelvin Watts' page.
Yes.
And again, we see the 2 shells.
Correct.
Okay, and that had significance to you because there was 2 dead bodies.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So let's talk about it for a minute. Now, in my personal opinion, I said from the beginning that this witness seemed like she had already picked a side. So her level of bias at this point is actually expected. And does it not look like she puts on for one side more than the other? Especially when she was just a detective. Let's dig.
Also, you're aware that Kelvin Watts has made a song that references Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
He may have.
You never heard Mafia Story by Kel and Third World?
I haven't, but it would not surprise me if he did.
I heard my ops died like some thoughts, referring to 2 snakes dying with their eyes wide open and their tongues out. Crime scene nasty in a fast car, died in empty traffic.
That sounds about on brand for Kelvin Watts.
Okay, and that was a reference to the Kia Stinger, the fast car is Kia Stinger that Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford were in.
That sounds about right. Before that murder, things of that nature. So if the social media was enough for probable cause, a lot of people probably would have gone to jail for this, but we don't do that.
Right, because there were a lot of people posting on social media.
Correct.
A lot of people posting horrible things on social media.
But unfortunately, nobody was on camera at the scene or there's.
Now, with this witness, the state is definitely playing dirty. You see how she can't even answer a yes or no question, but she can remember the scene that was allegedly tied to SB from the night of Shamel drinks. That's sinking.
Agenda today, and I know that you want to talk about the security cameras, and we will absolutely talk about the security cameras. I promise you.
Commentary and, well,
I'm-
there's commentary going on both sides. Answer the question that's asked.
Is Garlington, this is your investigation, Garlington is in Mr. Stillwell's rented white Audi,
Correct.
and Mr. Boyer, who's not charged in
Correct.
this case, is a passenger in Mr. Nichols' Ford Fusion.
Correct.
Okay. White Ford Fusion.
Correct.
Time here. We have the wiretap time,
Correct.
we have the FedEx video time,
Correct.
and we have a BP video time.
Correct.
Okay. Are any of those, to your knowledge, are any of those 3 separate surveillance systems synced up?
They're not. So typically what you would have to do is go back and sync them because I know the wiretap is a constant. I know that's an accurate time.
Okay, so you know, and that's fine. So you know the wiretap is an accurate time, but we don't know if the FedEx is an accurate time or the BP is an accurate time.
I'd have to look at the timestamps on both.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is we can't just go by the BP time and go to 9:59 and however many seconds and say, oh, that's when that call was placed.
I went off of the wiretap data.
Right, exactly.
Correct.
Right, and that's what you were in charge of the wiretap. You went, but I'm going to go back to my question, and that makes complete sense to me that you went off the wiretap time. But we cannot go back to the BP and look at the BP at 9:59 and however many seconds and say that's when this call was made, because those 2 timing systems between the wiretap and the surveillance might not be synced up.
Correct. I'm not sure if they were or they weren't, but typically that's something I double check.
Okay, and the same thing for the FedEx. We can't look at the FedEx time and just go to 9:59 and however many seconds and say, oh, this is the exact time when that call was between Mr. Garlington and Mr. Boyer, between those 2 cars was made. We can't do that, can we?
Correct. I go with what I know to be constant.
Gotcha. So all you're saying is 9:59 on the wiretap time.
Correct.
Awesome. I got to give Mr. Atkins a couple minutes.
Okay.
So we listened to another call at 2:01 a.m. between, you know who that was?
I'd have to hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna cut to the chase. You said in court that you heard someone say, riding by the scene.
I don't know if I said that verbatim, but they're riding back through, I think is the direct quote.
And you said the scene.
They may have been riding back through the scene.
Okay, well, do you now know what call I'm talking about?
I know which call you're referring to, yes.
All right, and if you, and do you know who the speakers were?
Well, if it's from the wiretap, one would have been in Garlington.
Right.
And then I believe the other one may have been Boyer. I have to hear the call. I don't want to misspeak on it.
Okay, and people were fussing with each other. Someone was fussing with someone about not having a ride to get back to where they needed to go. Is essentially the gist of the call, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, if you could publish, right, and whatever,
Now, you definitely got to salute the defense because, man, this witness is definitely disrespectful, first and foremost, but she's also up here with an alternative motive. Her motive is clear. It's just to distract the defense and throw them off to make this scene in front of the jury. But is the defense strong enough to actually overcome? Let's dig.
The fuck you getting dropped off for, nigga? Why would this nigga who brought you? Yeah. Stupid as fuck. And you need to be on the gun. We're right here down here. Right past trying to see.
Okay, stop. Did you not just hear him say riding past through the city?
He said riding past trying to see.
Well, where's the scene?
I said,
You said scene before, now you're saying trying to see, and I'm saying city.
you may have misunderstood what I was saying. You got to understand when these calls come in, when you click on the call, it will also provide a map of where they are, and the next call may show where they traveled to after that. It's my understanding that he traveled back towards that area.
So towards the area, you mean the city? It's in the city,
They never
right?
left the city.
Okay. Investigator Viverito, you previously testified that he said going to the scene, and now you're saying to this jury that he didn't say scene, he said see. Is that correct?
I don't know if I said he said, I don't believe I said he said he's riding through the scene. He may have rode back. I believe he was traveling back towards the scene.
And I know you're an expert, but if the jury listens to this and hears city, is that okay with you?
But that's not what's said, so I would clarify for them.
I understand that you want to tell everyone what's said here, but you've already given two different stories. You said see, and then you said
What's your
see.
objection? Argument is overruled.
It's
Can we just go by what we hear? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Does that FN shoot .40 caliber bullets?
Does not.
That could not have been the murder weapon for Shamel Drinks.
No.
Could it? Okay. He talks about taking a stick from a car on the scene, right?
Correct.
And you know the stick to be an AK-47 type assault rifle, correct?
Could be an AK-47. It could be an AR-15. It could be, it's a rifle.
Typically shoot 7.62 caliber bullets.
Correct.
Okay, not 40 caliber.
Nope.
Okay, so you would know that that stick that he talks about taking from the scene once you guys let him go is, in fact, not the weapon used to shoot Mr. Drinks.
Correct.
All right. And in this call, where, again, you don't have any reason to believe Mr. Stillwell knew he was being recorded,
Correct.
or Mr. Garlington knew he was being recorded. In this call, he never talks about taking any other guns from the scene.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if it was just me, but it actually hurt her soul to actually clear the name as B. Now, I don't know, maybe it's a love-hate relationship, which explains the altercation between Ms. V and Kayla B. Whole nother situation and story. We might break that down, maybe not, 403. But man, what is it with this actual detective when it comes to SB? Let's dig.
I was telling folks, I'm like, shit, what the hell they locked up for? Like, they just saying, like, I'm like, bro, they good. I'm just like, they gonna assume some shit like that anyway. They gonna assume that, like, oh, like, y'all ain't did, ain't kill me, so.
That's what I keep telling look, I keep telling him, like, just chill. Like, I know.
Yeah,
Like,
cause they
this
think
ain't nothing. Yeah, I'm like, this ain't nothing. They just doing that cut. They seem as it got gas. It's like, just chill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's what I'm telling. I keep telling him all the time. I'm like, listen, bro. They're like, you like, bro, I'm telling probably in the cat. Listen, bro, no. They're telling for you want to talk, bro. Like,
Not one word.
yeah.
Down. What they try to portray or what they say, man, don't say shit.
Yeah. I ain't know that though. Like, so I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. So on that call, again, neither party has reason to believe they're being recorded. That's Deamonte Garlington and Shannon Stillwell.
Correct.
And they talk about they gonna assume shit.
Correct.
Mr. Garlington says y'all didn't do nothing.
Correct.
And then Ms. Stillwell says they just saying it because they seen us at the gas station.
Correct.
Now, wait a minute. Now, either this state's witness is slow or she's just clearly biased. Now, it's one thing to misrepresent evidence and actual information, but it's another thing to misinterpret and present it as part of your investigation. Now, the defense clearly wasted no time pointing out her flawed interpretation of social media posts, claiming that she highlighted, picked, and chose what she wanted to use just to fit the state's narrative. And you would think that after being corrected, you would just admit the truth instead, just like the state's expert's interpretation of 24 mil on your head. 24 mil on your head? Let's dig.
You can put 24M on the front of your head. Y'all young hoes get in line. Slime rule the world. Believe it. Y'all niggas out this motherfucker spending 24 million on their heads. We can put 24M on the front of their head. Y'all young hoe get in line.
Okay. And could you please publish put a $24 million diamond into his head?
Correct.
Okay. Did you know about Lil Uzi Vert and the $24 million diamond and that reference when you filled out this affidavit?
I did not, but I would still stand by what I put in the affidavit.
Okay, so you're telling me right now, on a sworn statement to a judge with knowledge, that Lil Uzi Vert just got a $24 million diamond put into his head the days before Mr. Williams typed that, you would still put that quote, YSL ruled the world, 24 million on an end head in that affidavit?
Objection. Vague, compounded, maybe mischaracterization of what the witness just said. Overruled.
I did not have knowledge of Lil Uzi Vert getting a diamond in his head.
Okay, so all right, so let me ask that last question again. Instead of saying I would do it again, if you had knowledge that Lil Uzi Vert just got $24 million diamond in his head and that Mr. Williams was referring to that, would you still have put that in the affidavit?
Yes.
To mislead the judge?
Not misleading. May I explain?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm saying is this social media direct message is different than what you see on here. Lil Uzi Vert, I don't remember, is a member of YSL, so I think it might be a new, like a term they're going to coin. Like wipe his nose, things of that nature. So 24 on somebody's head might be a new thing that they're going to go with.
You know how crazy she got to sound right now? In front of the jury, just in front of the judge, in front of the state, in front of anybody who's listening to this. $24 million on somebody's head. You think YSL finna drop $24 million on Lucha, and Lucha ain't even worth $24 million? And that's no pun, no disrespect to him. But make that make sense. This is the state's evidence, $24 million. What they thought Thug had, the money and the power? Boss, let's dig.
Correct. There's other individuals in the room?
Correct.
Okay. And then it's on Mr. Stillwell's phone, so you're presuming that Mr. Stillwell was filming the video?
It was filmed from his device. So
Right,
yes.
right. Okay. So yesterday, you made a claim that a gun, well, what did you say? A gun is, I don't want to jumble your words. What are you claiming about the guns on this table?
A gun is what?
You identified or thought a gun was consistent with something?
It could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Could be consistent.
Correct.
Okay. And which gun is this?
The one towards the back right here.
Okay. Could be consistent with a Glock 27. All right. It could also, well, first of all, are you a firearms expert?
I'm not.
This lady is shut up. I told y'all, she's dangerous for the state and dangerous for the prosecution. This is why I said that her interpretation, look at this, her interpretation, I heard the state's case. But her representation, I heard the defense. Make that make sense. Let's dig.
Yeah, you're just someone who's owned a Glock before.
Several, yes.
Okay. And before yesterday, had you ever made the claim that, oh, I reviewed this video and this appears to be a Glock 27?
That was my first time testifying yesterday, so where else would I make?
What about reports? Did you ever write a report and said, I reviewed this is very important. I reviewed this video that was in Mr. Stillwell's phone, and I believe that that could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Well, while reviewing the evidence in preparation for trial, when I took a better look at this video and found it was probably 2 or 3 days before I testified, and that's when I first had to really research through and look at photos and kind of isolate what kind of gun that was.
So the answer is no, you didn't write a report.
No.
Okay. And certainly the first time saying it to me or anyone on this side was yesterday in court.
Correct.
Okay. You say it looks like it could be consistent, or it could be consistent with a Glock 27 based on the shape of the bottom of the grip. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Springfield firearm, correct?
I'm not familiar with a Springfield, but from how the magazine looks, also it could be consistent with a Glock.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Sig Sauer. Could also be consistent with a Smith & Wesson, correct?
I'm familiar with a Glock.
Right, because you're not a firearms expert. You're only familiar with these Glocks.
I never claimed to be Mr. Shardt.
Okay, well, you start identifying guns in court, kind of making yourself an expert. But you're not an expert, are you?
I'm not.
Okay. And you don't even know, whatever this gun is, if Mr. Stillwell left with that gun or didn't leave with that gun. You don't know if anyone left with that gun. You don't know whose gun that is.
Correct, but we don't know that they didn't.
Okay. Right. Let me ask you this about your Glock 27 that you say this looks consistent with. When you shoot your Glock 27, does it expel shell casings?
I don't own a Glock 27. When I was purchasing a subcompact Glock, I was going back and forth between the 27 and the 43. I prefer to shoot a 9mm, so I went with the 43.
So you don't even own a Glock 27?
I just said when I was researching the two, handling the two at the gun dealer.
So now you don't own a Glock 27. You were researching it, which means you were handling the gun at the gun dealer. That's your experience with the Glock 27.
I never asserted that I owned one. I've seen one. I've handled one. I can recognize one.
So you've handled one at a gun dealer, and that's what you're basing the identification on.
I've recovered a good bit of guns in my career. I know what they look like.
All right, let me ask you this. Since you know about guns, at least through your career, Glock 27s, when you shoot them, do they expel shell casings?
Yes.
Okay, Glock 27s, when you shoot them, do they make a loud bang?
Yes.
When you shoot a Glock 27, does it create a muzzle flash?
It should. I mean, when you shoot it, like during the day, you wouldn't see it, or sometimes at night you can see it, but.
Okay, and when you shoot a Glock 27, does it emit gunshot residue?
If it's inside of a contained area, yes, it would.
Okay. Okay, pause, Mr. Kokomo, please. All right, so we're paused at 102:36 on this video. At this point, Mr. Stillwell in the white Audi is pulled off, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Nichols and with Mr. Boyer and Mr. Farley have pulled off.
Correct.
Okay, while they were there at that light with Mr. Drinks, did you observe any muzzle flash on that video?
No, and with this quality of video, I would not expect to see it.
Okay, right. You just see brake lights and traffic lights and headlights, but no muzzle flash. Okay, I got you.
A muzzle flash is much, much, much dimmer than a brake light. Like if you're shooting at night, you're hard pressed to see your own muzzle flash.
Firearms expert again.
I'm telling you, my experience from shooting a firearm, we do take night firing courses.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Gunshot residue. You aware that the headliner from Mr. Stillwell's car, the Audi, was collected and tested for gunshot residue?
I am.
You ever talked to Alexander GBI analyst Alexander Coven about the results that he found?
I have not.
Okay. And you are aware that warrants were taken out certainly before any of those GSR results were in, correct?
Correct.
Talk about tint. You've been preparing with the state. You know that the state has said that Mr. Stillwell had tint applied to his windows of that white Audi upon renting it, correct?
Correct.
In violation of the rental agreement, I may add.
Correct.
Okay. And this tint was applied on Flat Shoals Road, according to the district attorneys, at about 6:30 p.m.?
According to them, yes.
Okay. You were able to observe the white Audi on March 16th?
I did not walk. Wasn't that interested in it at that point, so I did not walk. And it was very, very dark.
Have you seen the pictures that Miss Antoinette Green took of the white Audi after it was recovered when Mr. Stillwell was arrested?
I have.
Did you see any damage to the tint, specifically the front driver passenger tint on that car?
I did not.
Okay. Mr. Kokomo, if you could rewind again. No, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Keep it here. Keep it here. Just play it. I'm sorry, Mr. Kokomo. Okay. You saw that car speed up behind Mr. Stillwell? Pause it, please. You saw
Yes.
that? Mr. Stillwell, you're aware that he, well, you've already stated this, he was victimized in the past. Someone shot through the rear windows, killing Tierra Jones.
Yes.
And now, that car that sped up is next to Mr. Drinks, correct? Or approaching Mr. Drinks?
It's approaching, but it stopped short of Mr. Drinks.
Okay, Mr. Kokomo, if you could please play it. Okay. So now there's a pause. So now there's a pause. So now there's one car next to Mr. Drinks, correct?
It's still not next to him. You could see from that angle that it looks like the front of the car. I'm sorry. The front of the car is like, from what I can see, looks like the front of the car. The front wheels are still towards the back of the vehicle. It's not like exact with the car.
Okay. Mr. Kokomo, if you could please play. Pause. See that car make a U-turn?
I do.
Okay. What car was next to Mr. Drinks when that car suddenly made a U-turn?
Judging by how the lights are, that car still appears to be back a little bit, but next to it.
All right, so now you're making three-dimensional evaluations, but we can't see a muzzle flash off this.
A muzzle.
AMV.
Mr. Shardt, I'm going to explain to you. When you're, I don't know if you're mischaracterizing it. When you go to the range, example, to fire your weapons at night, and there's a line of shooters, it's not bam, 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 lights everywhere. It's a very, very muted, if it shows. So this far away with this quality of video, I would not expect to see that.
Okay, well, let's talk about this car.
Sure.
This car makes a U-turn. Did you see, is there like a train that's crossing that would have let this person know, no, I need to find another route?
No.
Is there a officer saying, hey, turn around, you can't come this way?
No.
Is there an animal crossing the road that would have made this man do a U-turn?
No.
Who is this? Whose car is this that made the U-turn?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if anyone ever tried to use these license plate readers to determine whose car that is so we could talk to them about why they made that sudden U-turn?
That would be part of Detective Hogan's investigation, but I do not.
Okay. Investigator Viverito, when you saw this story by Mr. Nichols, you had scoured this story to find the spot on this post where it had those lyrics, didn't you?
Well, no. I turned over and discovered the video in its entirety because I felt all of it was pretty damaging and consistent with the case. But it's my understanding that we had to condense the social media, so that was the screenshot that was turned over in lieu of the video.
I'm going to ask that question again. To get that screenshot, you had to parse this to a millisecond to get those words up on the screen.
Or I just took a screenshot, and it happened to be that one, and we kept it.
Oh, it just happened to be that one.
There are other things that probably would have been better to keep.
Okay.
That weren't kept.
So you just happened to screenshot. Now, you would agree that in this video, there's Mr. Nichols and these lyrics are being shown on the screen as music is being played.
Yes.
And you would agree that many of the lyrics, as the song is being played, are up on the screen and easy to read.
Correct.
Okay. Right before the lyrics become easy to read, there is a split second, a millisecond, that has those lyrics in that picture, 471 VV. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
You don't even know if those lyrics were the ones. First of all, you don't know if it was just suggested by Instagram or actually chosen by Mr. Nichols, right?
The song was chosen by Mr. Nichols.
Of course, the song. I'm
Okay.
talking about the lyrics. You don't know if it was the Instagram choosing these lyrics because these are the most popular ones in the song, and they make a suggestion.
No, but based on the rest of the videos on the post, the theme is murder, bullets, guns,
Okay.
things like that. It fit.
So again, and you don't even know when it's on for that millisecond. Just supposing, hypothetically, if Mr. Nichols did choose the lyrics, you don't even know if that was Instagram just had the last lyrics up and then was getting to the lyrics he chose, which are shown clearly, or if it's something that Instagram just chose. You don't know.
I don't, but he can preview the post before it posts to his account.
Okay. So you have absolutely no evidence that Mr. Nichols intentionally chose those lyrics.
Which is why I included the video in its entirety with the other posts about murder and shooting.
And in preparation of this case, you scoured this video and paused it at that exact millisecond when it had those lyrics. Didn't
Did not. I took a screenshot.
Okay, took a screenshot. I'm sorry. At that exact millisecond where it had those lyrics that are in 471B.
I probably took several, trying to catch all the lyrics, and that was probably when we had to condense evidence. That's one that was chosen.
How many different screenshots did you take?
I have no idea.
Well,
We're
can
talking
you just
about.
tell me from your report?
I can't. You can look at my folder that was served to discovery and tell me.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Investigator Viverito.
Good afternoon.
So you mentioned that Mr. Kendrick's phone was seized at the time that he was arrested on May 9th, 2022, correct?
It was.
And his phone was extracted.
It was.
Did you review that extraction?
I did.
And if you reviewed that extraction, did you see that he had been spending several months in LA and had only returned to Atlanta within a day or two of the day he was arrested?
I did.
Did you also see other location data within that phone?
Absolutely.
Okay. And in that location data, again, he'd been spending the bulk of his time in California, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did you look through all the photographs on that phone?
Oh, through a good bit of them, yes.
The two photographs that were shown in court this afternoon, are those the only two photographs of interest that you believe were in the phone?
No, there was probably a few.
Okay. Did you find any evidence on that phone that Mr. Kendrick was in possession of any firearms?
No.
Okay. Let's briefly return to the Richard Mille watch.
Yes, sure. Sure.
I understand the eye roll. During the seizure that day, and I'm looking at a property report.
Sure.
During the seizure that day, you, and when I say you, I mean APD, can I say under your supervision? Is that accurate?
I didn't work for APD at that time, so I
Well,
couldn't.
okay, then let's just say APD. APD seized. APD seized a necklace and a pendant from a bedroom, correct?
I guess I'd have to look at the report. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, well, you were involved in this. They seized a blue box of jewelry, correct?
Correct, in a red box.
And a red box of jewelry. They seized jewelry that was on Martinez Arnold.
I believe so.
They seized a Chevy Corvette,
Yes.
a Dodge Durango,
Yes.
a Mercedes-Benz AMG,
Yes.
a Mercedes-Benz GLS class,
Yes.
a Porsche 911,
Yes.
a Jeep Grand Cherokee,
Yes.
a pink Lamborghini,
Yes.
another Mercedes-Benz aluminum silver,
Yes.
about jewelry that was located in a Mercedes AMG.
Yes.
And they even seized a ring found on Jeffrey Williams' hand, correct?
I'd have to see which one was on his hand. I didn't have any contact with Mr. Williams when he was arrested.
Okay. So despite seizing all of that, you left behind the Richard Mille watch, pink with a white ceramic case?
Again, Mr. Weinstein, as it's being inventoried, the jewelry is being looked at. I use photographed. The jewelry is being put on this thing. If you watch the video, and it's placed on the shelf, and nobody messes with it again.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Ms. Hilton, does the state have any further evidence?
No, Your Honor, the state of Georgia rests.
All right, thank you.
So after 163 days of nothing but courtroom drama, the state finally rests their case. Now, to be fair, we have seen a lot of defendants actually plea out in this actual case, whether it was at the beginning or the end. But these last two defendants are the only two that actually stood on 10. And now, both of their fates are in the jury's hand. But let's run through it. Was the state able to connect the dot? Did they prove beyond a reasonable doubt who actually fired the fatal shot? Now, they did actually use these defendants' lyrics and song and some of the social media posts that they put up, but did the state actually prove beyond a reasonable doubt who was actually responsible for that? Was this case really about justice or actual get back? And speaking of that, let's talk about Yak and his overt act, like the fact that the state is charging him for being in possession of firearms when he wasn't actually there, and no fingerprints actually came back. And not to mention, it was only 2 days before his actual indictment for the arrest. Will the jury actually take into consideration all of the state's botched investigation? Or what about the lack of evidence that the state actually really failed to present? Not to mention the ex partes and the previous judge that was actually removed from the bench, and how the Fulton County DA's office just presented a case to the world and added the term RICO to it just to try to make it make sense. Now, to be fair, some of these actual defendants might have put themselves in certain situations, but ask yourself this: is it fair to take another man's life on another man's life that wasn't proved to be taken through another botched investigation? Let that sink in. And why a lot of the actual investigators that investigated didn't even know about the headliners. Yeah, we talking about the one from the audit, the one that was actually tested and came back with no residue. They said they was talking about sticks, only found one, not even 2. And when did Kayla and SB during this trial even get the chance to say I do? Which brings us to the witness on the stand. Ask yourself, did SB actually hit 1 or did he hit 2? At the end of the day, the actual case is coming to a close. What we learned was there was a lot of lies told and a lot of truths exposed. And did the previous defendants who took those pleas actually help the last 2? And man, it almost make you feel bad for the ones involved in YSL Part 2.
So let's dig. Now, my personal opinion, I feel like the defense definitely did a great job, especially when it came to defending the last state's witness. Now, this witness, as you can see, was a firecracker ready to expose and explode at the same time, willing to take everything down, even if it was a state, just for this day. Now, this is something that you got to pay attention to because the defense definitely did a good job. Definitely not actually overdoing it right there in front of the jury. Sometimes doing too much will actually be what gets you convicted. But saying less, I always was taught was best. What did Weinstein do? Say less. What did Shardt do? Lead with the most impactful information so he didn't have to say too much. Now, in my personal opinion, the state did too much. Just for one, bringing this witness up here to let her actually testify in this case. Number 1 mistake. Number 2, even though y'all prepped this actual witness on the stand, she still had no self-control when it came to the questions at hand. Number 3, she all talked too much. Sometimes you don't have to tell too much just to get your point across. And sometimes they say when you tell too much just to get your point across, that's the easiest way for a person to get lost. So you think the jury was actually still paying attention? Will these 2 defendants actually be the ones that actually walk? Now, these actual jury instructions, how they gonna come back? As I said, everybody's noticed by now, the state's key with this whole case is verbiage. Now, the defense definitely has to pay attention to make sure that these instructions are definitely clear with this jury because, man, just one misinterpretation of a word can be the end of these dudes' life. Definitely right behind bars back in the Fulton County. Now, I'm still hollering freedom boys because, in my personal opinion, I still ain't seen RICO and the state still failed to connect the dots. All these days, and y'all copped out with pleas with most of these defendants, and then these 2, man, where's that man Watch? Man, y'all jump in the comments and let me know y'all's thoughts. Will these 2 defendants actually walk? Did the state fail to connect the dots? Or will either one of these defendants actually be found guilty by the jury? Until next time, remember, the greater the height, the greater the weight. As always, I'm your host, Jack, and remember, the life you save might be your very own. Until next time, gone.